G'day guys, welcome to She'll Be Right Garage. So you're joining us just outside of Tamworth at the moment. We're on our way to pick up another vehicle now that the ute is all up and running again. You probably saw us last week with the gearbox issues. So far so good. So we've probably, close to 4.5 hours in on this drive. We're going to a place called Moonby, so we're picking up an XB ute. We're going to try to start it by the end of this video. Now I've bought this as a parts car. I have no idea what I'm really getting into. It's pretty much been bought sight unseen. I've only got 4 photos, I think it was. It looks to be a fairly complete 302 V8 ute. I believe it's missing a carburetor and a grille. It's got a smashed back window, and it's being sold to me as minus gearbox. Now I'm pretty lucky in the sense that I have a gearbox and I've got it with me. The fellow selling it just wanted a gearbox core, so he's going to take my gearbox as a core and I get to keep this gearbox in the ute without having it being removed, which will make my job a hell of a lot easier to try to make it start. Now I'm also told it needs 3 wheels and some hubs in order to get it rolling. So in the back of the ute I've also got some stub axles with complete disc brakes as necessary, and a set of wheels that I raided off the Landau temporarily. So I think we'll keep on trucking. We'll get there and have a look at what we're dealing with. We'll get it loaded all up and drag it back home, and by the end of this video we'll hopefully have it up and running, and we'll also find out if it's going to be a project or just a parts car. It's purchased for the purposes of parts, but you know how it is. Some people say it's rusty. I don't think it's that bad. We'll see what it ends up being. So come and join us guys. Let's see what kind of ute we got. And righto, here we are. First look and first impressions of the old girl. Same bloody colour as the Ratty. Look at that. That's like twins. That's unreal. Yeah. You can see the missing brakes and stubs. She's fairly complete. Pretty rough, but that's alright. We'll look at getting some tyres on him and get him mobile and get him loaded. You beauty. Pretty rotten floor in the back. Yeah, she's pretty sad and rotten. Don't know if it'll be a viable project or not, or a parts car. Now the firewall looks pretty solid. Fairly complete motor too. Not bad. She's a factory V8. As we're looking at this back side of the car, there's no wheel on the left, and we've got a bull ant's nest right there, so we're going to put some wheels on the front. I've got complete stub axles as mentioned earlier, and we'll drop him down to the earth first, and then we'll very quickly try to get that left hand rear wheel on without disturbing the ants, and then we can probably get him on. Let's get to it, shall we? Only one more wheel to go, guys, but we still got this bull ant's nest here where this timber log is. Hopefully we don't disturb it. We'll see how we go. And we're loaded just in time before the rain comes. Righto, boys and girls, let's getting back to home base. And here we are back at home base, both the utes side by side. Look at that, almost identical. What do you reckon, Dal?
Yeah, they look pretty similar. This one's just a lot dirtier and grubbier.
Well, I think we should have a closer look at this ute then and see how bad it is and clean it out. What do we think?
Let's do it.
Are you going to clean it out or am I doing it today?
I think you can do that today.
Oh, thanks very much. Look at that.
That's green.
That's a very green carpet. We call that environmentally friendly. Not looking real promising, this ute as a project, is it?
Well, it looks like there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit too much. See what's under here, and then we'll jack the car up and get underneath. See just how bad it really is. Time to get rid of this environmentally green carpet. That is putrid. It's just falling apart. It's had a lot of water in over the years. Don't hold up much hope for these floors. Looking pretty shagged. Yeah, it's not looking too good. I think we'll get all four off the ground, take another look underneath and do our final assessment.
Some looks a bit banged up.
Yeah, it is a bit beaten up actually. Here we have ourselves a pretty big red flag, guys. Check out the lack of chassis there. We actually struggled to find a spot to put this chassis stand on when PK was dropping the car down. You can see quite a bit of rust under the floor here. Whilst this quarter doesn't look too bad, you can see quite a bit of daylight through there. It's not pretty. And we can see the rest of the driver's quarter on the back is pretty rough as well. Inner of the left hand quarter is pretty rotten. Got some significant rust all across the tray area. Check that out there where the shock mounts are. See a lot of rot in where the cover goes here, then further down where the backboard meets the floor. It's all rotten on both sides. We can see the sills on both sides are pretty far gone on the insides. Main floor has quite a bit of rust as well. It's very rotten. Both sides are gone. Also got some rot in the passenger side talk box up front. There's some rot in the passenger's rear talk box as well. And the outer sill is rotten too. And the whole left hand quarter moving in and out, so that's all rotten, as well as the outer skin. And it's copped a knock on the left hand side here, don't know if you can see it. Interestingly enough, the A-pillars are fairly solid on both sides. And we've got some rot near the windscreen. Bottom seems to be fairly tidy though, which is rare for one of these. And of course we've got our obvious damage from a bit of an accident on the front. A lot of crumpling on the left hand fender there and rot. And there's a bit of crumple on the driver's side too. Alright, well, we've done the inspection of the ute. As you pointed out, a bit of damage on the sump, still holding oil I think. Chassis rail's completely rotten. That means there is no his and hers project, I'm sorry.
Oh, what a shame.
You're going to have to do without this ute for you, darling. So it is a parts car, guys. That's it, plain and simple. I've got a bunch of parts that I want to keep. Amongst those is going to be the brake master cylinder, if it's any good. So I think we're going to quickly try to inspect it and test it and see if it's any good as a backup for the XA. And after that, we'll deal with starting it. Alright, let's see what it's like inside, shall we? Ugh, that doesn't look too good. Oh, we'll clean it out and we'll connect these lines anyway, see if we get anything out of it. So I actually think with the state of this master cylinder, I'm only going to chuck a bit of fluid in to begin with. I'm not going to bother connecting the calipers yet. I have a feeling it's not even going to move at all. So we'll see if we can squirt some out first. And if we can, then we'll connect the calipers. Otherwise, we'll leave it at that.
No.
That's dry as, no fluid coming out from there yet. Alright, so plan B, we are going to connect it properly, just to make sure. We do have some fluid here though, and we might be in some luck after all. So the driver's side done, we'll whip this left side off. We'll take the wheels off the back as well, and we will attempt to bleed it properly. And after that attempt, guys, before you even got too far, that fluid's just coming out the back of that master cylinder. So she's had it, we're not going to have any brakes. Well, as expected, guys, not much luck out of that master cylinder. We're wet, we're tired, it's raining. We'll come back the next day. We're going to try to get this thing up and running. We'll just have to rely on the handbrake. Rightio guys, the weather continues to wreak havoc, but we've got to get this thing started. Let's see what we've got to do to get it running and see how complete it is. Let's see what's hiding under this air cleaner. Alright, 2-barrel manifold as expected for a 302. Looks like it's been stuffed full. The insides look really tidy actually, so that's very, very promising. We've got our accelerator cable, so that's no drama. We appear to have all our coil and distributor wires intact, so that's looking good. Heater hoses, on the other hand, don't look so good. So we'll loop those back into each other. Radiator stuffed with a rag. Inside looks pretty decent as well too actually. We're missing a belt for the alternator. We'll see if we can source up a second-hand one. Wiring is a little bit dodgy. It's our starter motor wire here. We'll have to address that. And I think we've got a couple of wires here that have been cut that actually feed the starter motor. So we'll address that too. So I think first things first, we're going to correct the wiring for the starter motor, see if it turns over at all with the ignition or just bypassing it. And then we're going to pull all these plugs out and chuck some inox down the cylinders, and then do maybe a compression test. Now that we know this motor is not going to be kept, it's going to be sold, want to make sure that any buyer has all the correct information and knows exactly what they're getting. After getting under the car, guys, I found this dodgy little yellow wire here that goes into the cabin, and it comes here to some weird and wonderful remote starter switch. So we'll get rid of that and we'll start it through the engine bay. That'll give us the basic electricals we need to get this starter turning once we pull these plugs. That's all plugs, all 8. Now you have to find out if the starter works. But it does. Beautiful. Compression test time. Well, that's about 175 psi. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let's get the rest of them done. And here we are, guys, after doing a compression test 3 times on each cylinder. Here's our final result. It's to be expected for a motor of its age. It's a little bit old and tired, but it's fine, it will run. Let's go and get our accessories sorted. And so now we're finally at the pointy end with this stuff, guys. We have now refitted the spark plugs and the high tension leads. We've found an alternator belt so we can run the water pump and fan. We have fixed up the heater hoses into the block and bypass them so we can fill it up with water. We've checked the oil in both the engine, which is satisfactory, and the gearbox, which also looks fine. And we've also cleaned up the mounting face for the carburetor using sharpening stone. So on that note, we're going to chuck this 350 Holly in. We don't know anything about it. As long as it doesn't leak like a sieve, we should be fine. Let's get him in. Moment of truth, we now find out if the fuel pump's working and if the electricals are working. We've got a bypass system here, we've got some positive power to the coil. Let's see how we go. first kick. Sounds alright too. I think we've got a working fuel pump. Now we have our replacement, which was known to work a few years back. Hopefully it keeps doing so. And that there is going to have to wrap it up, guys. Unfortunately, I can't get this engine to run any longer than a few seconds. As you would have just seen, the starter motor has crapped out. It's pretty disappointing considering that it pretty much started first kick from the get-go. We changed out the fuel pump. The fuel pump is actually working now with the second-hand unit that we fitted, but that carburetor is not really matched to this engine. It doesn't seem to be working properly, so with a decent carburetor and the usual servicing stuff, this engine probably will run fine. Obviously it does need a starter motor. As for the gearbox, you did also see it in reverse and drive a couple of times there. The first 2 or 3 startups I think it was, we actually did get some life out of the gearbox. So once again, with a service there, that box will probably also be fine. So look, it's a tired old motor. It's the original motor to this ute. If you wanted to drop it into another car, yeah, you can probably do that with a few accessories being swapped out for some new ones, or just rebuild it and use it as a conversion. So look, I'm going to advertise these parts, guys. I'll put a link in the description. You can check that out. Anything that I've got listed is for sale. If you don't see it, it's not for sale. I am going to keep quite a few parts for my other utes. Now, moving forward, we were disappointed that this wasn't going to be a project, but we do have a very special project coming up. Check it out next week. Find out what it is and come and join us. Cheers, guys. Fucking hell. Fuck, how long does it take for some split pins? Fucking hell. Bloody flies, go away.
I'd say this one's more like you.
Oh, shush. You'll be okay with driving this car as it is, yeah?
Is there moss growing down there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's a car I would ever get into.
Oh, that's a shame because you'll be getting into it a bit later today. Fuck off, Rain.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Fucking wind, will you piss off? Oh, you turd. Helps if you connect the battery full. Ah, battery's coming, mate. Oh, you turd. Come on, you shit starter motor.